While many people think that the 8-bit and the 16-bit era of Capcom was the greatest, I kind of disagree with that a little bit. I really loved Capcom in the PS1 and the PS2 era because they were making so many cool games, and of course it brought us the birth of Resident Evil. Resident Evil is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and the PS1 games and Code Veronica were some of the best games that came out of Capcom in my opinion. Well, Capcom was doing a lot of different things at that time frame. They were trying a lot of new IPs and trying to go in different routes, and one of those new IPs was a series called Onimusha. Now, the first 3 Onimusha games on the PS2 were really fun games, but it's sort of a franchise that time has forgotten. You haven't seen anything from Onimusha in a long time, which is a shame because I really enjoyed those games on the PS2. Well, recently, the first game in the series, Onimusha Warlords, was announced to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, the PS4, Xbox One, and Steam in January. And admittedly, I was pretty excited for it. Now, the game actually released in Japan already, and you could get it digitally via the eShop or other different means, but initially I wasn't going to pick it up. I was going to wait for the North American version, but the Japanese version actually has all English subtitles and voiceovers in the game, so there's no reason to wait if you're a fan of Onimusha. And initially I was going to wait, but then I was like, you know what, screw it. I want to play some Onimusha. It's been a long time since I've played this game, and I want to see how it holds up and how this HD version is playing. So what is Onimusha Warlords all about? Is this a game that you should have on your radar, and is this a game that you would enjoy? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into the world of Onimusha Warlords for the Nintendo Switch.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my god, it's Stevie Richards! So the story in Onimusha Warlords isn't really all that deep. This is Capcom at sort of their peak, where they weren't really doing many super deep stories, in my opinion. You know, looking at Resident Evil, there wasn't a whole lot of meat on those bones in those original games. But in Onimusha Warlords, you basically play as a warrior named Samanosuke. Samanosuke gets a letter from his cousin, who just happens to be a princess, named Yuki. And so, you know, since she's a princess, she's also your cousin, so no sort of Mario and Peach situation here. But she basically sends you a letter saying that her castle has been invaded by monsters, her servants are disappearing, and you have to go in there and help her and figure out what the hell is going on. Of course, you are too late when you get to the castle. Yuki has been taken hostage, and you have to figure out what is going on. You also have your assistant with you, who's named Kade, who helps you search for her. Basically, Kade plays a small role in the game, but you actually do play as her at times. You use her in puzzle situations, and she's just sort of there to help flesh out the story and keep things moving along. Originally, Onimusha was supposed to be a Resident Evil game with ninjas that was going to be released on the 64DD, and maybe that's the reason I like it so much, because it shows and it feels like an old school Resident Evil game from that time period. The game uses pre-rendered backgrounds and a fixed camera system, which was a staple of the original Resident Evil games. You didn't have full control of your camera. They were just sort of positioned in different areas, and you walking to those areas would trigger the camera to change where it was focused on. Admittedly, the fixed camera system will probably be a turnoff for some gamers, especially newer gamers, but like I said, as someone who grew up loving the original Resident Evil style of games, I didn't really mind it at all. Sometimes it can lead to some cheap hits being done by enemies, especially when you're rounding a corner and you're not expecting them to be there, but for the most part, it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. Because of the camera system, the gameplay in Onimusha definitely feels like Resident Evil with ninjas. You end up acquiring a few different blades in the game, all of which have unique abilities. You also have magic attacks with those blades, as indicated by the meter below your life bar. As you defeat monsters in the game, they drop souls, and you can acquire these souls by basically holding a button and sucking them into this little thing you get on your arm. Red souls are basically the currency in the game, where you use it to upgrade your blades in terms of attacks, and of course in how you open doors. There are doors that you'll encounter in the game that you have to have a certain blade in order to open them, and your blade has to be at a certain level in order to get through them. Blue souls are for your special attacks for your blades and will fill up your special meter, and the yellow souls that you come across will regenerate your health. Sometimes you'll have to grind a little bit in order to level up your blade to unlock doors, but the combat in the game is fun enough to where you want to keep doing it. You basically hack and slash your way through a bunch of different monsters, some more challenging than others, of course. Samanosuke can parry and dodge as well, which is key in later segments of the game. As stated earlier, you also play as Kade for some segments of the game, and she doesn't grab souls like Samanosuke, so you only have to deal with a life bar, but she's much more quicker and nimble than him, so she feels pretty unique when you're playing the game. Even the items in the game sort of feel like Resident Evil. You acquire different things like herbs to regenerate your life, and puzzles are mostly find an item and put it in a certain place in order to progress through the game. There are also treasure box puzzles you encounter that have you looking for different documents you have acquired along the way in order to solve the puzzles, and even some like number boxes where you're shifting different numbers around in order to get an item. I will say it is a bit imperative that you try to solve as many of these puzzles as you can and acquire all the items as you can, because you get different things like armor in these puzzle boxes as well, and it really sort of plays a role in the later segments of the game. My character in my first playthrough, Samanosuke, didn't have much health. I was out of herbs, and I didn't find one of the armor upgrades as I was playing through the game, so my character was a bit weak. You can find different things that will boost your life meter and will boost your magic meter as well throughout the games, so it's definitely worth, you know, scouring every area and going through all of the doors to find these different items. The game isn't necessarily scary or anything like an original Resident Evil game, but it does get pretty tense at times, and there was a few situations that honestly caught me a bit off guard and added to the tension of the game, which I enjoyed. The control in the game is fine, but once again, like I said earlier, the camera system does play a role in it feeling a bit dated. You can swap through weapons on the fly though, which is nice, as each blade has its own magic meter, so it's not just a cumulative thing. Each blade, of course, has its own magic attack, and there are situations such as boss battles, which are really fun and scattered throughout the game, where you'll have to use these different magic attacks in order to take them down in a timely manner. So it's nice that all of the individual blades have their own individual magic attacks and magic meters. The game can feel a bit tank-like at times as well, but as someone, like I said, who grew up loving that style of horror games, those Resident Evil games, it gets the job done for me. Graphically speaking, the game is a bit of a mixed bag, but I'm leaning more towards positive with it. The character models and the monsters look great with the coat of HD paint, but the pre-rendered backgrounds in the game haven't really been touched up at all. Considering that this is a budget release though, and not a full-fledged HD remaster or anything like that, it's fine, but I would have liked to have seen some of the environments spruced up a little bit. The music in the game is pretty minimal. It only really happens when you go into certain areas, but I really like it. I think it's very well done. But the voiceovers in the game definitely have that cheesy Capcom feel from that era, and admittedly are pretty silly. Video games were sort of transitioning during that time frame in terms of voice acting. Coming off of the PS1 era, you really just had like people working in the office that were doing a lot of these voiceovers, and this was before games like Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, which had, you know, excellent voice acting. This is a 2001 early PlayStation 1 game, so if you're expecting great voice acting, you're not going to find it in this game.
Didn't know humans could be such pests?
Where is the princess?
Humans are more tasty when angry, and I haven't eaten in a while.
One of the biggest issues with Onimusha though has to be the game is very, very short. Your first playthrough can easily be done in a sitting or two with around like 4 to 5 hours of gameplay. There are, however, reasons to go back and revisit the game though, as more difficulties and various things become unlocked. There's also an honor system which has 56 different tasks for you to accomplish in the game. They range from things like completing the game in a certain time frame, on a certain difficulty, to sort of challenges like not using any herbs or medicine through a playthrough. It's a nice addition, honestly, and it adds some additional longevity to the game and sort of shows you what sort of things you should be looking out for as you're playing through this game. All in all though, I really enjoyed Onimusha Warlords. Yes, it's definitely a dated experience. I don't really foresee this game getting super high review scores in 2018, but when the game came out originally in 2001, it did get really good reviews because it's really fun. If you like games like old school Resident Evil games and you like ninjas, you're gonna have an absolute blast with this game. It literally feels like Resident Evil with ninjas, just a bit faster, and I really like that about the game. I think the character models and the monsters look really good. The puzzles themselves are simple enough to where they're not super stressful, but they're still fun. There's some tense moments in the game. The boss battles are really fun, and yeah, there's definitely some dated things. The controls are definitely dated. The fixed camera system is definitely something that a lot of people don't appreciate, and like I said, the pre-rendered backgrounds kind of suck for a lot of the game, but all in all, it's a very fun game. Considering when this comes out stateside, it's only going to be a $20 game. It's definitely worth it. I actually paid like over $30 with the currency transition from US to Japanese currency, and honestly, I feel like my $30 was well spent. As a fan of this series, as a fan of Capcom from this time frame, it's a really solid game that's really fun, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this trip down memory lane. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of Onimusha Warlords. Is this a game that you played back in the day on PS2? Are you looking forward to revisiting this game, or will you be playing it for the first time when it comes out in January on the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and of course Steam? And And as always, thank you for checking out this video. Like I said, let me know what you think of Onimusha in the comments section down below if you're familiar with the franchise. If you would like to see more of these, I really hope this sort of kind of brings back this franchise, because I would like to see the other games in the series remastered. 3 would be a bit difficult because there is a famous actor in 3, Jean Reno is in that game, so I could see some sort of licensing issues. I don't really know why he's in that game, to be honest with you, but I would love to see Onimusha come back. I would love to see a new entry in the series as well, so hopefully this will catapult it. As always, thank you for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.